Hey folks, thank you for joining me. Today we are taking a look at Mastermind Creations Cyber Engine Night Morpher KM-03 Cyclops for ages 16 and up. The figure itself in vehicle mode comes to a whopping 15 inches in length. That is a very big toy. Now what we have here is the vehicle mode. That is the way the figure is packaged. And then it is a very interesting vehicle mode. After spending some time searching on the internet to find an exact match for this design, the closest I've been able to find is the first Iron-class warship, which was the French warship, the Redoutable, built in 1876. The next closest warship that I was able to find was the CSS Macon Armored Pad Wheels ship. It was built in Savannah, Georgia by the Confederacy and was one of their chief military vessels. However, its continued construction delays prevented it from actually being completed, so it actually never saw battle. And those are the two closest ones that I've been able to find to this model. I believe the last influence for this vehicle mode was an ancient Greek trireme, and the reason I came to that decision was because after looking at all of the other ironclad vessels, none of them were this long and sleek. All of them were very, very wide or very large vessels. This one is very sleek, very slender, but it also has the beginnings of a battering ram in the front. Towards the waterline. If you look at this little curved spot at the front of at the bow of the vehicle, it is the perfect spot to put a battering ram. Now, an ancient trireme was designed for speed, ramming ability, and sitting high on the waterline. And this vessel that we have here in front of us would do that. It would probably be very quick compared to vehicles of the same type in the late 1800s. It would probably sit very high in the water, and it was probably very, very fast, which makes sense. So really what we have here are three different vessels all combined into one. A very, very cool idea, and it looks excellent in vehicle mode. I have to say the vehicle mode looks very, very good. I'm a fan. But there are a couple of problems which we'll get into right now. For the most part, the vehicle mode holds together just fine, but there are a few issues, as I said, not least of which in the fact that it doesn't hold together in specific areas. The first area is back here where the this part where the smokestack comes out doesn't want to clip down to the deck of the ship all the time, so sometimes you really have to force it down. And the rear of the vessel never wants to stay connected. And what I mean is these are two separate halves right here, and they just keep coming apart no matter how much I handle it. The other issue is up here at the bow. The whole bow section, starting from where my hand is covering up, from just behind the cannon forward, comes undetached from the rest of the vessel very, very easily. And that's because this whole section, the whole middle of the ship, is actually one big shell, or several shell pieces combined together. And they just do not want to come together at all. This is the way that the ship came, and when I pulled it out of the box, this is the way it was. The bottom keel of the vessel is not holding itself together, which is a problem. Thankfully, though, the designers did put these little tabs in here, so they fold up flush against the bottom, but then you flip them out so that you can actually display the vessel without it tipping to one side or another. A very, very good idea and a very excellent design choice. However, because of the panels that they're on, it doesn't always sit quite right anyway. So it was kind of a moot, but I'm glad they're there. It means somebody thought of something and they ran into that issue. So the only accessories that this vessel comes with are a miniature figure, which I'll show you in a minute, and an anchor and chain. The anchor and chain is, well, probably the heaviest part of the entire kit. This is a real metal chain. I mean, this is a nice real metal chain and attached to an anchor. Now the anchor does have two modes. It's got the more anchorish mode like that, and then you could push the anchor pieces in, and then it becomes kind of like a ball and chain, which is pretty cool. And that does detach very easily at the bottom of the ball. The chain itself is nice, heavy, strong. You're not going to break this without excessive force. And it does have a connector port here at the top. Now, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to be able to be stored in the bow of the ship, just underneath the cannon. There's a panel here that pops out and opens up. And the anchor is supposed to be able to be stored inside here. No, it just doesn't work. I have tried every which way to Sunday to get this thing in there, and it just doesn't work. Now, you could put the chain inside with no problem. The chain will go right in there. That's not the issue. The issue is the actual anchor part. This thing just does not want to go inside. It just doesn't. And according to the directions I have, it's supposed to go in there. It does not want to go in there. And if I could find another place on this guy to put the anchor, that'd be great. Because you're supposed to be able to put the anchor and chain in there. There's a little peg for the chain part here, and then there's another peg hole down here for the other side of the chain. So my thinking is you're only supposed to store the chain in here. Not sure where else you're supposed to put this guy. Maybe at the top of the smokestack? Nope, that's not going to work. So, problem there. That's kind of a silly issue, but it is an issue for me. Now, the other cool thing and the other accessory on this unit is a little submarine that is stored underneath the bow, and this is awesome. I will freely admit this is pretty freaking awesome. So what you do is you reach under the bow and open up these panels here, and let me tell you, these panels are tight as heck. So I'm always afraid I'm going to break it when I'm opening this thing up. There we go. So those panels open like that, and then there's another panel that folds down like that, and that drops down a little submersible, which is very, very cool. Now, according to the comic that comes along with KM-03 Cyclops, the Cyclops is actually this little guy. This is Cyclops. This is a giant golem that he merges with. Kind of like a headmaster almost, but doesn't transform into the head. I'm trying to come up with another idea, maybe like a master, another master, a target master, or in this case, sub-master. Now this little sub is a very, very cool little sub. It's more based on modern day scientific subs than anything else. And it is very cool looking. However, one little problem. The little sucker doesn't want to stay together in vehicle mode. It just wants to flop apart constantly. So let's go ahead and put the big guy off to the side and take a look at the little sub first. As you can see, the sub mode is actually very well detailed and looks really good. I like the sub mode a lot. My complaint of it not being able to hold together in vehicle mode, though, stands, and that's a shame because I think it's a really cool little guy. Now, size-wise, you're probably wondering just how big this thing is. Well, I've got Cyberverse leader Ironhide, or Commander Ironhide right here, so you can get a good size comparison of him. He's about the size of a Cyberverse Commander figure. So let's go ahead and get him transformed. The transformation for this little dude is actually very complex, given the size. To start, we'll open him up with the parts that like to flop around a bit. And then take them, and unfortunately there are ball joints here at the edge. Be very careful because these ball joints are going to break real easy. They're right on that little pinion right there. So what we do is we get everything unpegged, or if it isn't unpegged already, and then take it and swivel it so that you've got it pointing to the one side. Now, the reason we do that is just turn the figure around, and there's the robot head. So we will take what will be the one arm and move it off to the side, take the other arm and put it forward to the front of the figure. And then we will take the entire backpack that just likes to fall apart on you and unfold it like that. And just kind of leave it like that for now while reattaching the ball joint again. And really, this might just be an issue with my figure. This one ball joint on the side is extremely loose. Again, that could just be with this particular version of the figure, or my version of the figure. Then for the legs, we're going to turn them and fold up the thrusters. Open the rear of the vehicle mode, open, just completely butterfly it out all the way down, and then turn it so that the thrusters are pointing out on the outside of the legs. So fold that all the way down. Then we reach in to the side here and unpeg this bit at the very bottom to form the foot. Unpeg it and just fold it up towards the front of the figure and then rotate it around and pop the ball joint. I don't know what it is about this little guy, but the ball joints on this little guy just do not like to stay connected. So just get them all posed up and then come to the back and fold the back down and kind of work it so that you get these bits back here to just fold out and out so that they form little wings. And it does take a little bit to get them into place, but once you get them into place, they will stay in place, thankfully. And here we have Cyclops fully transformed. Now this guy is pretty small and very top-heavy with a massive backpack. I mean, his backpack is just huge. But he is pretty cool looking. He's just this little transformer guy that packs a whole lot of heat. Now, size-wise, he's, well, he's definitely smaller than a commander-sized Legends figure, as you can see. Definitely smaller, but no less cool. Alright, let's go ahead and get to the big guy. Now I've moved my camera back a bit to do this transformation because this guy's big. I mean, this is a big figure, and it's got a pretty darn complicated transformation. It's not impossible, but it is rather rough. To start with, we're going to take the paddles and actually fold them down so they are pointing, the edges are pointing straight down. This will give us the necessary clearance to reach inside, kind of unpeg the bow as best we can, make sure that the decks are unpegged, and then reach under here and fold out the entire middle of the ship. And sometimes when you do this, you just have to force it a little bit to get off the pegs, because there are pegs on the front and back of the middle of the ship, and these pegs are the tightest, but if you can get them undone, you'll be fine. So once we do that, there is another peg underneath that we need to unpeg and swivel the entire section away from the ship, like that. Once we do that, we can then reach back to the back of the ship, unpeg the smokestack, and then that will leave the back of the ship free to fold down and forward. And when we do that, we want to fold down, forward, and twist so that we can, or actually no, just fold it down, just bring it on down and snap it into place. Though it doesn't make a snapping sound, which I'll talk about in a little bit after we get the transformation, but it will hold into place. So we're almost to the point where we can really get moving forward. So what do we do next? Well, this is where things get a little weird. So leave the bow as is, but take the middle section right here and lift it, kind of lift it up. And you just have to be very careful and see what you're doing. So I lifted it up so I could see where I was positioned. Take the whole smokestack section and fold it forward, and then turn it so that well, as you see, I turned it the wrong way, but a good guide is these screw holes. So you want the screw holes pointing away. So, and you see the thing the other part didn't peg into place cleanly. So what we'll do is we'll push that down, peg it in cleanly. And here's the hinge that I'm talking about that we fold forward that we've got to be careful on. So we'll fold that forward and slide it into a groove. Now, this is where things get really, really kind of dangerous, because you could seriously break the figure here. And the reason I say that is because this piece of plastic is excessively flimsy. There is no excuse why this piece of plastic is this flimsy. It is ridiculous. This little arm piece of plastic. I mean, this thing is just waiting to break. So once we have it in the groove, we push it back down, fold it down, and then there are these very, 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 very tiny little pieces of plastic tabs sticking up just where my fingers are. And those tabs go into these holes. So we'll push it down, bring it down, and then slide it back. And I am waiting for the day when these tabs break. Because even though they snap into place cleanly, I am terrified that those suckers are going to snap off. It's the drop of a hat. So, well, we're almost done. So what do we do from here? Well, first we're going to take the paddles and return them to the way they were. And then split the back of the vehicle mode apart. Then what we're going to do is reach to the very back of the figure and start folding the rear deck up, snap it into place, and then fold it up. And very, very cool paint job in there for the gears. So do the same thing on the other side, flip it and fold it up. Then come to the front and actually reach up underneath and fold up these panels. And then reach down a little bit farther and fold up these panels right at the bottom. And then between those two panels that you folded up, there's another panel that you push in and slide up. And then you tuck that second folded panel up like that. So we'll do this on the other side. The second panel that we folded up, we will actually fold it flush and then reach underneath with our thumb and push the panel straight up into what will be the shin, or the lower shin. Then reach to the back of the boat and fold that down to form feet. So there are the feet. Next, we're going to take this and just get it out of the way. We're going to come to the back of the figure and we'll turn these, what will be the wings, turn them so that they are parallel to the rest of the body. Then come to what is the bow of the ship and rotate it down so that the keel of the front of the ship is pointing down. And then reach under into the side, and there is a slide. The connector point actually will slide back, and then it's supposed to slide down, but mine doesn't. And it really worries me because this is super fragile. I mean, the plastic on these joints, like this gray plastic here, is super, super fragile. So I really don't want to force this joint, so we'll just continue on. Now that panel that I was talking about that stores the anchor, go ahead and unpeg that and move it forward. And there is no corresponding panel on the other side. For the very front of the ship, reach forward and flip up the deck plate there. Then the sides will fold open like that, revealing the fist. And this is a little bit tricky because I did it in the wrong order. So you see what I did there? I opened up the front, and then I opened the panel where the other bit was held. Okay, now that we've done this, we can actually reach inside here and maybe move things around. Well, I'm not going to force it. So let's just move it forward, slide it down, or slide it up. And then that will allow the arm to be folded down like that. I know that's not technically the way it's supposed to be, but there are the plastic. Ah, there we go. Okay, so what I did was just fiddling and fooling around, I was able to slide the plastic into place after I got the whole dang thing done. And while I was doing that, the little tabs came unpegged, so we get to peg those suckers back. It's not a hard transformation, it's just fiddly and annoying. There we go. Alright, so where do we go from here? Well, the next part, we're going to go to the other arm. Unpeg the smokestack and the cannon and fold it up. And then when you pull the smokestack section away from the cannon shoulder part, it'll actually rotate the gun down And you can fold it down to form the arm. And then you can reach in here on the sides of the smokestack and push these pegs forward to deploy a big-ass Gatling gun. Very, very cool there. Finally, we will deal with the back. Now this is, it's not hard, but it is rather disturbing. So what we want to do, and I haven't been able to confirm this, but there are what looks to be thrusters there. I don't know if they're supposed to be pointed up or down. In the directions, in my directions, in two different pictures, they're pointing down and up. So these pointy bits, I believe, are supposed to be on the back, pointing up at the shoulders like that. So this, you have to fold the... This is going to be tricky. So you have to fold it in like that, and fold it around, and then just pray to God you don't break it. Pray to whatever gods you believe in that you don't break anything. You kind of have to just force it, brute force it, so that the parts with the rivets are touching each other. And then you fold it in to form one of the wings. Now I really wish I could show you a nicer way to do it, but brute force is really the best way here. And I'm sorry, but that's just kind of the way it ended up being. Okay, almost done. Next, the head reveal. So fold that up and then reach into the chest to pull the head, and fold it down once it's almost deployed, and flip it out, rotate it 180, fold it back down, and then peg it into this winged backpack, like that. And then just kind of work on posing the wings out of the way. And here we have Cyclops. Taking a quick look at the head, it is definitely Shockwave. I can't kid you. This is definitely Shockwave's head in the style of a 18th century alt mode. It's got these really cool riveting effects at the top, some spikes at the top. It just looks really, really nice. Very, very nice. It does have some light piping, though it does seem to be limited. I've tried to get some good light piping going with this guy, and it works okay. It's not perfect. So getting him around some bright light does give you a good light piping. So that is a definite plus for the robot mode. The robot mode is very big, very bulky, very, very intimidating. It is a very interesting robot mode. Here he is next to Voyager Class First Edition Transformers Prime, Optimus Prime. So as you can see, it is significantly bigger. Unfortunately, I don't have one of the Weaponizer figures yet, so I can't compare him to that, but he is a very large figure. It's an enjoyable figure, definitely worthy of being on somebody's mantle. Now, posability-wise, he is actually very posable. Head is on a single ball joint. Shoulders, well, the one shoulder is a ratchet joint. The other shoulder is also a ratchet joint that is significantly louder than the one shoulder. Then there is an elbow, but you are affected by the kibble. The hand is a quality of, if you've ever seen a Master Grade Gundam, it's pretty much the same type of hand. Or I think, imagine a Unicron, one of the recent Unicron figures without articulation in this joint of the finger, and you get the idea. It's not bad at all, but it is, again, limited because of the kibble. I wish there was a way to drop this bow or this front of the ship out so you could get some more hand articulation. And on the other arm, you do have articulation up to a certain point with the elbow, and unfortunately the gun can't move without sliding the entire transformation spot. Then torso is very limited articulation in the torso. There's not a ratchet joint going forwards and backwards, but a very loose one going in and out. And then there is a ratchet joint in the knee and ratchet joints in the feet for the transformation. Though overall the figure does look very, very good. I like the look of the figure. That isn't to say that there aren't some real problems with this guy, but overall I like the look of the figure. The detailing is fantastic, and just the overall aesthetic of the figure is excellent. You've got these gears painted in the backs of the legs, in the backs of the knees, just a bunch of hidden gears in the torso that give you the illusion that there's movement in the transformation. It's very, very cool. Now, the anchor accessory holds a dual purpose, which I find fascinating. The first is a ball and chain-like device that can be, let's see if I can find the connector port, yep, that can be connected here onto the smokestack arm, or the gun arm, right there. And it acts as, like I said, a ball and chain that can be held in the other hand or swung around. And the other effect, which I find very, very cool, is plug it into the bottom of the smokestack and then turn the figure around, and look here in the back. There is this plug right here that plugs into the top of the ball and chain, or the anchor, I'm sorry. And that just plugs in there, and then you've got a more accurate G1 look. Instead of having the cord coming out of his back into his laser gun, you've got a big-ass boat chain. Very, very neat. And this is actually how I prefer to have him displayed. So I mentioned a couple of issues in this mode, and unfortunately there are, as no figure is perfect, but these are issues I think that should have been addressed. The first of which is look how floppy this is. For a $159 figure, this is unacceptable. These joints here in the legs are much too loose, far too loose for a figure of this weight. I mean, this is not a light figure. And it's just really unacceptable that this amount of flex and wobbliness is found in the legs and the upper torso. It's excessively top-heavy. The other issue I have is the plastic itself. And I'll get into that. The plastic itself isn't bad, but it's not good either. The plastic feels cheap. I'm just going to say it flat out. This does not feel like top quality plastic. The plastic has a certain feel to it. It doesn't feel that dense, and it does not feel that strong. And I have already noticed in several spots underneath the panels when transforming it, I've noticed some warp issues that I really can't show you here because I can't get them on camera, and believe me, I've tried. That worries me a lot. I mean, for a $100-some figure, third party, you shouldn't be having these issues. It's just kind of unacceptable when you're paying this kind of money to have crappy plastic and stability issues in a figure of this cost and this size. It's hard to say whether KM-03 Cyclops is a good figure or not. I like it, but that's with a lot of caveats. There are some severe issues with this guy, not least of which being the quality of the plastic and the fact that he's overly top-heavy. Given the size of the figure, however, I can see how it would be much more expensive than $159. Mastermind Creations should be applauded for being able to get the price down, but I can easily see this figure being $200 or more, and I can see also where they didn't want to have people to pay that, because no one would buy it at that price. Even at $159, I'm not sure people are going to buy this figure either, given the quality control issues. But the question begs, does this thing belong in your collection? If you are a completist like myself, and or if you really like third-party figures, then yes, I would pick this guy up. But otherwise, if you want it, I would wait until there is a sale at any of the stores. $100, yeah, I think this guy would be good at $100. $80 would be better. But it just doesn't feel like something that you should spend over $100 on, if that makes any sense. It's not a bad figure by any stretch of the imagination, but like I said, there are some major problems. So, like I said, wait it out, see if you can get it for cheaper. If you're a normal Transformers fan that just buys stuff in the stores or buys Deluxes and Voyagers, you do not need this in your collection. I personally like it, but I'm worried about it, and I am not going to display the figure because of its fragility. I'm going to be putting it back into vehicle mode, and it's going back in the box and back into storage where it'll be safe. Hopefully. I hope you've enjoyed this look at KM-03 Cyclops. Please be sure to subscribe to my videos and check me out on Twitter at twitter.com/Baltmatrix. And I'll catch you guys next time.